Do you know that alcohol is the only drug you have to justify not taking? Think about that for a second. In social settings or at work events or even in professional networking circles, turning down a drink often comes with questions or side eyes or even pressure to explain yourself. But why? And more importantly, how do we change that? If you've ever felt like your career and your sobriety were at odds, if you're looking for ways to create a more inclusive, alcohol-free environment, this episode is for you.
Welcome to the Sober Life Rocks podcast. You may have made the decision not to drink alcohol, or at the very least, not at work-related events. Whether you've never been a drinker, are in recovery, or made a health-related decision, we see you, and you are not alone. In today's world, networking, socializing, and celebrations often happen over drinks, and the struggle can be real. Through this podcast, we're changing that narrative. We're here to create a community where individuals like you, who choose not to drink or drink less, can find camaraderie, support, and practical advice.
Before we get started, Sober Life Rocks is hosting a conference, Amplify Sober Voices, on January 15th, 2026. And we're bringing together influencers, speakers, writers, and podcasters to reimagine what a truly inclusive, alcohol-optional world looks like. And if you're interested in being part of the growing movement we're seeing, we would love to have you join us. Learn more at amplifysobervoices.com. My guest today is Heather Lowe, founder of Ditch the Drink. She is a powerhouse at helping professionals rethink their relationship with alcohol. She's an expert in addiction awareness for HR teams, workplace culture, and the intersection of sobriety and leadership. We'll be talking about the pressures women face around drinking, how alcohol seeps into workplace culture, and the impact of coaching in the sober space. Heather, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. How
Oh my
exciting
gosh.
that there's so much going on in that Sober Life Rocks, and you're sharing that, shouting it from the rooftops. Finally, thank you.
Absolutely. Well, you've been somebody I've admired for so long, and I'm so grateful that you're here. Like, you're the mastermind behind Ditch the Drink. So, kind of before we start, I would love to hear a little bit about your story. And also, as you kind of wind up it, I'd love to hear some of the awkward moments that you face now as a sober woman. So, start with your story if you would.
Sure. So I like to go way back and share that my parents met in a beer tent in Wisconsin. So
Perfect.
no wonder I was going to have some problems with alcohol later in life, right? I, of course, met my husband in a bar in college. So we're lots of great love stories start. But anyways, we've been married, together for about 30 years. I have two daughters. I am from Wisconsin, but I live in Chicago's western suburbs now. So I was always a drinker, and it was very much par for the course in the culture of Wisconsin and where I grew up, right? I was drinking in fields and barns and going to parties, and drank through college as a rite of passage. Moved to Chicago, did urban drinking. We were drinking a little bit better drinks now. We had a little money with full-time jobs and college degrees, going to sporting events and feeling like grown-ups and having a good time. I didn't drink during my pregnancies, but when the babies were born, I had a little wine in the afternoon. That felt very European, totally normal. In the workplace, my degree is in social work, but I moved very quickly to get a certificate in HR. And I worked I've sold HR solutions for most of my corporate career, which meant that I was often the only female on all male sales teams. And being in sales, drinking often felt like part of the job.
For
And
sure. You have to wine
I
and
would
dine people.
totally, and then I would get access to decision makers, maybe at a happy hour or a networking event that I didn't in the office. As well as, of course, I could be part of the old boys club because I could drink like anyone. I was from Wisconsin. So it sort of was a feather in my drinking felt like a feather in my cap at work.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a 30-year relationship with alcohol. I had my first drink when I was 12, which seems alarmingly young to me now, but
Mine was 8.
okay, thank you.
Yep, yep.
Realizing it. And then I quit when I was 42.
Mm-hmm.
And so For 3 years before my last and final day one, I was doing this on-off drinking. I was sober curious, let's say. I was trying to let go of alcohol for a period of time to evaluate my relationship with alcohol and prove that I didn't need to give it up for good. If I could give it up for a little bit of time, then that was proof that I didn't really have to give it up forever. And I did not want to give it up forever. Okay. Like I did not ask for a life of sobriety. I thought that was one of the saddest things. I thought worst case scenario, death by alcohol. Second worst case scenario, getting sober. So I really
I
tried
get
to
that.
avoid that. Yeah. Yeah. Because I thought that it really meant a life of sadness, of not belonging. And it's really human, and we'll talk about this more. It's our biology to need to belong to a tribe or a herd or a group for protection and community. And we're wired that way. And when you quit
Mhm.
drinking, you're choosing to set yourself on the outside of that group on purpose. It's very uncomfortable. It's very unnatural. But anyways, after 1 year of being alcohol free, I wanted to go. I was between jobs and I was interviewing for jobs that were just like the other jobs I'd had. I was going to get offers. I had been a top salesperson. I had won the awards. I was perfectly qualified to do these things, and I didn't want to. Like
Mm.
sobriety had taught me to really tune in and listen to myself, and I couldn't ignore it. And I didn't have alcohol to numb that feeling out or to ignore and avoid that.
Mm.
So I secretly started building my dream on the side, which was a program for other professional women like me to learn a very holistic and modern way to ditch the drink. And so I put together a program and I said to my husband, I don't want to go back to those jobs. I want to do this. He said, but do you think you can make this much money at it? I said, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, well, we'll go for it. Right. So from there, I got certified as a coach and my offerings grew and everything really grew and it did work out for me. So that's where I land now. I do one-on-one coaching. I have a membership. I have digital courses. Now I also recruit folks that want to become coaches and I help them launch their business.
Mm.
I love writing and speaking. And the fun thing is I partner with the International Center for Addiction Recovery Education. And now I can go back and train HR folks on facilitating awareness around addiction and
Mm.
recovery in the workplace. So it's all come
Amazing.
together.
Amazing. Amazing. You said something there that kind of just like rung this bell in my head. I've read your bio on your website, and one of the things that you and I both did was secretly drink on the sofa. Like, I
Mm,
did not love going out to the bars
mhm,
because, first of all, I knew I was going to drink more than was reasonable. And second of all, then I had to drive home, and I was a single mom with my kids. But honestly, I drank to self-medicate.
mhm,
If you had the life I had, you would drink too. But
mm,
one of the things you talked about was we love to belong to a tribe, and I think about like mommy wine culture, right? And this notion that there's the good old boys club, and then there's the mommy wine culture, and so all of these things all center around alcohol as being the currency of connection.
mhm,
So, like, how do we unpack from that
mhm.
as we begin to reevaluate this relationship with alcohol?
Yeah, yeah, it's a big challenge because I mean, I was a young mom at the height of mommy wine culture and I drank that Kool-Aid, so to speak. I loved
Hmm.
that because it normalized what I was doing. Even though I was afraid, I was secretly afraid. I wasn't outwardly drunk. I wasn't drinking at my kids' sporting events. I wasn't drinking and driving. It was a secret that I was doing on the
Hmm.
couch. And I was hit with some unexpected deaths in my life that were very out of order and traumatic. And so it did become self-medication for me to not feel those feelings. And to be honest,
Hmm.
I had never had any other coping skills. I never needed, once I found alcohol, I never looked for anything else. Alcohol was wonderful for good days and bad, rain and sun, right? There's patio, we'll drink. There's a snow day, we'll
It's
drink.
Tuesday.
Right.
Yeah.
So so I very much feel that. And then the thing is, the way alcohol is sold is to women, to mothers, is freedom, escape, a fuzzing of the edges of our mind. And I am not only recovering from alcohol, I'm recovering from perfectionism and people pleasing and all these
Hmm.
other things. And I have a very loud inner critic, and alcohol softened that. And so to normalize, like, we're drinking in the shower, we've got alcohol in our purse, it's okay to drink here or there and be funny about it, wine o'clock
Yeah.
somewhere. That was a relief to me, and I
Yeah.
wanted that. And if only that was true is the thing. It also felt like empowerment, like bad moms, right? Like, let's get our wine and let's go out, ladies. And when I hear like Shania Twain's Let's Go Girls, like I want to kick a door off its hinges. I want to feel so empowered like that. I get it.
Hmm.
But alcohol doesn't actually do that. It makes us weak and confused and unhealthy and insecure and ill. And so we're sold a really big lie that a lot of us bought into. Now, what mothers really need is time and space, but it's for their own creative pursuits. It's to become interested in their own life. And they need a little freedom to explore that. They need time, they need support. They don't need the alcohol.
I agree, but I mean, I'm just going to challenge that for a second. Like, let's be real. When we stop drinking, um, man culture, woman culture, whatever, like we are stepping on the outside of those circles. And
Yeah.
it can feel very isolating. I mean, for me, stopping drinking 20 years ago, like I made the decision not to tell anybody in my professional world. So I was secretly sober at work for 18 and a half years. And it was tough. I felt like I was on the outside looking in all the time. And I felt like I had to sort of fake my behavior almost to fit in at these networking events.
Yeah, because your need for belonging was even stronger than like your need for physical and mental wellness.
I mean, I was doing both at the same time, and so
Yeah.
it was crazy making.
Well, some of my clients pretend to drink. They put the drug that they're trying to stop right in front of them or carry it around with them or even put it to the glass to their lips because they're terrified to tell somebody. Because we
Mhm.
have it all wrong in our society because we think if you're not drinking, you are labeled with somebody who has a problem.
Right.
And versus this substance is addictive, right? We blame the person versus the substance. But even more than that, we say if you're going to a basement or you're going to AA or you're calling yourself an alcoholic or asking for help, that there's something wrong with that, that there's something wrong with asking for help or sitting in a basement. And
Yeah.
there's not. And to be clear, AA was not part of my journey. But what a welcoming community to anybody in the world. And there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with that. We have such a stigma against that. And I probably even do myself, which is why I was too scared to walk in, right? That's why I
Yeah.
found it another way. And the fact is, there's many ways to recovery, if you even want to call it recovery, but we think it's wrong to ask for help, where I think we should be throwing parades for people. We should be having
Mhm.
runs with balloons at the end of it for anybody that's raised their hand to say, I'm struggling. Like there's nothing
Yeah.
that there's everything right with that, not wrong.
Yeah. 1,000%. You know, I believe shame is one of the things that keeps us drinking, and then shame is something that we carry with us into our journey of not drinking. I mean, it's just pervasive and it's tough. So you and I are both fighting the good fight. We're trying to sort of normalize this conversation outside of just our bubbles, but I believe that a lot of it has to start with workplaces
Hmm.
because there again is the currency of connection. It's like, how do you reward your team? You go out for happy hour. How do you connect at a conference? You go out for drinks. Like, is there some way that you're working with companies and HR professionals to just raise their awareness
Yeah.
and what would you offer to somebody listening to this who maybe is a boss and it doesn't occur to them not to take their team out for drinks?
Yeah. Yeah. I think unless you're somebody like you or me who has like a hyper awareness about this, you don't even know the messages that we're sending.
Mhm.
I'm going to back up for just a second and I'm going to answer your question. But one of the things that I did, I believe in like spoil yourself sober, that it should be a luxury, that you're elevating your life, that is totally beautiful. That's totally my whole philosophy. So one thing that I did was join a gym, a very bougie gym. It's a
Mhm.
spa, it's a cafe, it's a rooftop pool. It's the whole thing. Okay. So I took the money I was spending on wine and I invested it into this gym, which I love and is a great third place. Everybody needs a third place. And it's been wonderful. But even at this gym, I want to use the word assaulted sometimes with messages on alcohol. This is supposed to be a safe place for health and fitness. And there's a wine tasting, and there's drinks after this, and there's a
Mhm.
social gathering that includes alcohol. And the spin instructor teases that there might be light beer in his water bottle or a margarita after class or
Yeah.
something like that. So that's how it feels to be us. And I don't think everybody who hasn't had this experience knows that. So in the workplace, you're a leader by person, not always by position. We're all leaders. So recognizing that 2/3 of American families are affected by addiction. So it's you or somebody you know. So any of those offhand comments can be hurtful to some, and it's perpetuating the myth, the 5 o'clock somewhere, or there might be wine in this coffee cup or whatever, to be careful of
Mhm.
that. And I was somebody who made all those jokes. That was the easy way for me to connect with people. So I'm not shaming
Mhm.
people that do or judging that. It's sort of an easy way, but I would ask for creativity to go beyond that and try to find something more real to connect on. And that maybe alcohol in the workplace isn't a joke, right? We don't have to joke about
Mhm.
that. We can find something else. We're smart people. But there is a new initiative with the federal government, the recovery friendly workplaces. And some
Mhm.
of the things that they offer, I think are fabulous. So I was going to be skeptical at first, and I started reading and now training on it, and I'm in full agreement with this. So you can offer alcohol-free beverages at every event, right? You can look at corporate gifting and not be gifting out, not assume everybody wants a bottle of wine. You
Right.
can books, oh my gosh, send me a book instead, right? Or any number of things. You can do employee gatherings that aren't alcohol centric, even if alcohol is there, it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
the main thing. You can celebrate and support a dry January or a sober October, just like you would a weight loss challenge or any other
Mhm.
sort of health challenge. I think you can include like a dry month or something and celebrate people's success. The most important thing is if a leader can share their experience, that's so valuable. That makes it safe for others to speak up, right? That you
Yeah.
can create employee affinity groups, right? Which I know you're so big on, and I know you've done work on of gathering people that are sober curious. I think not labeling people too, understanding that there's a big spectrum between when you have your first drink and when you stop drinking, and if that's by death or by choice or by the law told you have to, your doctor told you to, and there's everything in between. And
Yeah.
so
We have
just
a girlfriend who she is a drinker. However, she is also a professional speaker. And she made the decision early on in her career that she was never going to drink when she was on the road because she
yeah.
doesn't show up as her best self.
Yeah, Taylor Swift did that on her tour. She didn't drink on her whole tour because she wanted to bring her best to the stage. So
Yeah.
hopefully we're not going to shame her, right? So yeah,
Right.
so people are not drinking for a reason or a season or a lifetime. And a third of the population actually doesn't drink for all sorts of reasons. It might be religion,
Mhm.
it might be health, they may be on a medication or in a stage of motherhood or
And the
any
young
number of
people
things.
are not drinking nearly as much, which is super exciting.
Well, yeah, I think that's the other thing is like your relationship with alcohol is an experience. It's not a yes or no. It's not a black or white. It's not a you're an alcoholic or you're not an alcoholic. I think it's an experience and it can change over time. Mine certainly
Mm.
did. My drinking didn't always look problematic. It did. I always thought I liked it a little more than most, to be honest, but I thought that was maybe one of my like superpowers.
Yeah,
But
right.
it changed over time, and that happens to a lot of people. So, and
So
even now, oh, go ahead.
I want to know now, today, when you are at these work type of settings, or just wherever out in the public, like, do you still get questions about like why aren't you drinking, and or what are some of the situations you've run into, and how have you handled them?
Yeah, so my sober confidence has grown by leaps and bounds
Hmm.
over the
Hmm.
years. I used to find the waiter secretly and whisper the mocktail that I wanted. You know, I didn't want anyone to know that I wasn't drinking. Now I can sit at the end of the table and hoot out, I don't drink alcohol. What options do you have for me? You know, so that has changed. But and I've built my life and my career over not drinking, right? So I'm
Right.
loud and proud, but it took a long time. Coming out sober was scary. I did on Facebook. My final thing was LinkedIn and my professional community. That was the last thing I did because I was scared.
Yeah.
But now even I went to an event um with friends, and it was a dinner that was paired with wine. And so everybody was having the wine except for me and my husband that were at the end of the table. And my husband ordered an alcohol-free beer, and it came in a blue can. And a loud class clown kind of guy. They were kind of like acquaintances. So there was no reason to talk about my sobriety or not talk about my sobriety. It was just, we were not partaking in the wine, and we were sitting at the end of the table, and we were drinking what we were drinking. And a very loud guy at the table said, like, what is that? And my husband said, it's a beer or whatever. And he hooted out, like, it looked like a Pepsi. Oh, I thought it was a Pepsi. And the truth is, my husband usually drinks Diet Coke. And I just kept thinking, so what if it was a Pepsi? So what if it was a Pepsi? Like, it was an alcohol-free beer, but it doesn't really matter. Why would you be making a scene about that? And so what if it was a Pepsi? Can we not go to dinner and drink Pepsi? Like, who cares? So I'm still hit with it, and I still don't know how to react in all types of situations. Even being a loud and proud award-winning sober coach and all that can still feel uncomfortable. But I see that now as like, that's on him.
Yeah.
That's on him.
For
So.
sure. I mean, one of the things that we have struggled with time and again is we've been working with a lot of meeting planners who want to do better.
Mhm.
And so the easy first conversation is, can you offer non-alcoholic options? Can you offer some adult beverages that don't have alcohol in them? And they're like, sure, we can do some mocktails. And so we've seen places where they have like the jugs with the dispensers and the sticky
Mhm.
juice and the kitty cups. And they're like,
Yeah,
look, we got you guys some mocktails. We're like,
right.
yeah, no thanks. Um,
Totally.
and we've had other situations where they're they've talked with the property and they've agreed to do it. And then when it gets to food and beverage, like there's a full stop. Sorry, we can't do that. And so I think that part of the challenge that we're having right now is that there are these conversations happening. There is a willingness. It reminds me of the era when vegetarian first came around, and the kitchen solution was a big salad, right? And that's what you got, or a mushy steamed vegetables. And that's
Mhm.
what you got if you were vegetarian. And it was over on the other side of the room where you had to go like separately pick it up and bring it to your table with this walk of shame.
Mhm.
Um, and I think we're still kind of in that place where restaurants have gotten much better, and they'll have a mocktail menu or they'll have some NA options. But man, these conference properties, it's a real struggle. And so if you're the sort of person who doesn't want to be loud and proud and you go up to the little black bar and the loud music, so you're having to yell, like the only option is, club soda and the ubiquitous lime
Yeah.
or sticky soda. I mean, it's challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. I have so much to say about that. It's so interesting because I was at a conference in Denver that there was a recovery conference, and then there was the US Bartenders Guild conference. They were being held at the same time in the same place.
That's
So there were
amazing.
signs, and you could go, we're on the same floor. You can go this way to be a bartender and this way to be in recovery. And I thought, oh my gosh, the irony. And since then, I've been in communication with them. Do you have any alcohol-free speakers and events and projects and challenges and whatever? I want to talk all about it. So there's resistance. I get it, because people don't know, right? They need to be educated. They just don't know. They don't know what equals a sophisticated adult drink without alcohol. They're like, what do you mean? Iced tea?
Yeah,
Lemonade? A Pepsi? Right?
right,
No shade to Pepsi, but they
right.
don't know. And it can be very easy. It can be very simple. One of my favorite brands is Groovy, and they have beer and wine, and it's single serve. So
Yeah.
that's the other thing I hear pushback of, like, no one's going to drink it, then it's going to go bad. Actually, no. There are single serve beer and wine. That would be a wonderful place to start. There is something, sometimes it's like if you have a contract, like I know stadiums are like this. If they have a contract with Coke, let's say it has to be something that works with Coke, which is so easy because Ritual Zero Proof has rum and whiskey and, all these alcohol-free spirits, that it's very easy. So people just need to be educated on how to serve it, how to put it on the menu, how to label it, how to put it on the menu, how
Mhm.
to serve it. Does it go with ice? Does it go in a pint glass? Does it get a garnish? And it's fairly simple. And the thing is, the return on investment is huge. People are willing to pay what they would pay for alcohol to have this drink and be included. I'm happy
Yep.
that I have it. I'm thrilled to support that. It's very easy. There's also ready to go drinks, right? There's a can, you can take
Hmm.
a can and pour it over ice and done and
Yep.
done. So it's not as complicated as people. It can be. You can have a complex flavor in a big mixer and you can add an egg white or whatever you want, just like a craft cocktail. But it can also be more simple. They
Super.
just need
Right.
education.
Yep. And that is the key. I think that Laura tells another story where she was at a conference and they had agreed to, it was in New Orleans, and so they were going to have like hurricanes as the signature drink for this event. And so they were going to make a non-alcoholic sideways sort of drink like that for those who were, not interested in drinking. So we had these little stir sticks with our logo on top, and we had sent a whole bunch of those. And we were like, just put these into the non-alcoholic option so that people know like that this is a safe drink.
Yeah.
And she sees somebody drinking in what looked like the hurricane cup with the logo stick in it. And she walked up, she's like, what is this? And she's like, oh, it's a hurricane. It's really good. Let's try one. And so Laura takes the smell of it. She's like, this is not a non-alcoholic drink. Like, what if that girl was in recovery? Or what
Mhm.
if she was pregnant? Like, so she walked up to the bartender and said, what happened here? And he's like, oh yeah, we're just putting these in all the drinks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, part of the challenge is just getting it all the way down to people in the service, because they may not be, fully trained bartenders. They're just people who stand behind the black bars and dispense.
Yeah, definitely
So
training.
that's a real challenge.
Definitely. I mean, I've had that happen to me many times, but recently I had been to a place and I got a alcohol-free drink called the penicillin and it was delicious and I loved it. The next time I went,
Hmm.
looked on the menu, there it was. I ordered it again. I got it and there was alcohol in it. And at first I had a sip and then I had another, I wasn't sure because, it had like such strong flavors. I was like, I asked the person who I was with and they're like, well, some of your alcoholic stuff, non-alcoholic stuff,
Hmm.
it could,
Tastes.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to the bartender and he's like, oh yeah, they have the same drink with and without alcohol and it has the same name. But
Oh,
the alcohol free is listed first. So I would have never continued to look at that menu because once I found what I wanted, I'm not looking at the
yeah.
drinks with alcohol in them because I'm not ordering that, right? So that was like that's a training too. Like they have to have a different name,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Yeah,
Heather, I want to talk with our remaining time about the fact that there are people who are listening who they're like, I want to be part of the change too, and I want to help and I want to do more. And you mentioned that you offer some coaching for people who want to do more in this space. Can you talk about what that looks like and how they would reach you and all that?
absolutely. Yeah. Always ditchthedrink.com. You can always email me hello at ditchthedrink. I love to connect with everybody and there's lots of ways to chip in. So for me, I got trained as a coach and I partner with the International Association of Professional Recovery Coaches. So if anybody wants to be a coach, has questions about that, let me know. I also help all kinds of alcohol-free entrepreneurs launch their businesses and
Mm.
that's from folks that are like alcohol-free drink ambassadors to speakers to podcasters to authors, coaches, everything in between. If you have any interest in turning like your passion into profit in the alcohol-free world, I love to connect and collaborate and show you what I've done. I have a guidebook because I didn't know anything when I started. And so to give you a guide to let you know there's a done for you. You can do exactly what I did, or there's a choose your own adventure, and I give you the different options and you can sort of pick and choose what would work best for you. So yeah, it's
That's
growing though.
exciting.
Alcohol-free drinks are growing. The number of, let's say, sober coaches are growing. And I've got some people that say, well, is the market oversaturated? Should I not go into this? And I say, it's the opposite. It says there's a need for it and it's growing and this lifts the whole industry, right? This gives
Right.
more credibility to all of us when there's more of us. And you and I talked before, the rising tide does lift all boats. So I'm all about supporting anyone and collaborating and connecting and sharing opportunities to anyone who's in this space.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I mean, our whole mission has always been just to normalize the sober choices. Like, it shouldn't matter what's in your cup.
Yeah.
right? And the more of us that are talking about that and are celebrating, running down the street with a balloon, celebrating somebody
Mhm.
who has made this choice for themselves, who has decided to change their lives for the better, for whatever reason, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. And the question isn't, oh, why? It's good for you. If somebody says I'm not drinking, oh, why not? That's
Yeah,
not the response. The answer is good for you. That's awesome. Healthy choice. Way to go. You know?
yeah, yep. Are there any takeaway messages that you'd like to share?
Yeah, just to know that, be sensitive to folks out there. Don't assume everybody's drinking because the truth is, like in my coaching business, I work with professional women and they make great strides on their own. And then they have a work trip and they're terrified, or they don't know how to turn down that glass of wine in front of their boss who they're used to drinking with. And
Mhm.
it can set them back, right? So don't assume everybody's drinking all the time. And also know that there's a period of time where you're exploring. So, like for me, I had periods of time drinking and periods of time not drinking. And that's all okay. That was all in me trying to figure out what my best relationship with alcohol was. And it's okay to explore. I think there's a little bit of fear that if you take a break, you have to quit forever. And like I said, that was a
And then you
barrier
fail.
for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not like it's learning. It's like when a baby learns to walk, when it falls, we don't say, stupid baby, you're never going to walk, right? We just understand that's part of the process. There's going to be
Yeah.
some steps and some falls and figuring it out. And you get to do that yourself too. And everybody gets to do that. So
Mhm.
again, your relationship with alcohol is an experience and it's not a full-time label that you have to wear or carry if you don't want to, and it can
Mm.
change over time. And even if your drinking looked one way when you were in high school or college or in your early professional life, and it looks different after motherhood, or that it's okay. And mostly, I just want to say that removing alcohol gave me absolutely everything I wanted in my whole life. One thing, I had to get rid of one thing that I thought was my everything. And I know you know this too. I know you feel this too. Everybody that's why we're like sober life rocks, right? Because
Right.
we thought it was going to be sad. And it's not sad. It's beautiful. It's a huge awakening. And I'm so grateful for my alcohol problem because it forced me to pay attention and wake up to my own life.
Speaking of Sober Life Rocks,
Yes, girl.
yes, because because at the end of the day, I love your enthusiasm. I love your passion for it because, like, it's so interwoven into our workplaces, our social lives, even professional expectations. But as we've discussed today, it doesn't have to be that way. Like,
I
we
know.
have the power to create workplaces where success isn't measured by how well you fit in at happy hour or where the social connection doesn't require a drink in hand. So here's your challenge. If you're in leadership or HR, ask how your company can better support employees who choose not to drink. If you're an entrepreneur, think about the culture you're building. Does it truly include everyone? And if you've ever felt alone in your decision to drink, to ditch the drink, know that you're not. Thank you, Heather, for being here.
Thank you.